and welcome to Art Club. I'm Miss Liz, and today we are going to be creating an art project using the style of Pointillism. If you registered for this program at the New Lenox Public Library, you will have already picked up your kit and you'll be ready to get started. If you're watching this video and you did not register for this program, you are welcome to follow along with your own supplies from home. Now let's see what's inside our bags. So you picked up your bag and we will be using this as our work surface. You will have some watercolor paints in these little paint pots. You will have a fine tip paintbrush, and you will also have some Q-tips. So you might think, what's with this paint? So there's just a little bit of paint in here, but this is watercolor paint, and this goes a really long way. It's not diluted, it's just straight paint. And I labeled the tops so you could see what's in here. We've got blue, orange, BR stands for brown, green, red, and yellow. So when you're working on your project, make sure you look and you're opening up the right one, because if you look at this yellow one, it kind of looks like it's orange, but it's really not. And then when you look at this orange, it kind of looks like red. So make sure you pay attention to that. So one bit of information about liquid watercolor paint is that it goes a very, very long way. You won't need to keep dipping your paintbrush back into your paint. It's gonna last a long time. And then when the color starts to fade, that's when you're gonna wanna dip your paintbrush or your Q-tip back into the paint. Before we get started painting, let's talk a little bit about Pointillism. What is Pointillism? Well, a very long time ago, an artist named Georges Seurat developed a scientific way of painting. He believed that an artist could create mood, harmony, and emotion by using colors and lines. He started using tiny dots to create his paintings, and the tiny dots, when next to each other, seem to blend together while we're looking at it. So there's just all these dots on the paper. The paint is not mixed together, but when you look at it, you're gonna see something different, and it's gonna blend from your eye, from your point of view. For example, if you place blue and yellow dots next to each other, it will create an illusion of the color green. And yes, I know what you're thinking. If you put blue and yellow blue together and mix it together, it does make green. But we're not gonna mix it, we're going to just place them next to each other. And then it's gonna give it the illusion of green. So you can find some of Georges Seurat's art at the Chicago Art Institute, or even you can go on their website online. If you look very closely at his paintings and zoom in, you will really see that they are made out of tiny dots. So I went to the Chicago Art Institute website to view some of his paintings before I started working on this project. And I just recommend that you take a peek when you have time and see some of his artwork and see how this Pointillism is so neat. This project is really going to be more of an introduction to Pointillism. You can create some really beautiful paintings using this technique and taking your time. Take a look at these samples. Ours most likely will not be as detailed as these samples. However, if you are really enjoying this project and you take your time, you can certainly be creative and make a more detailed painting. So we're going to be focusing less on having a perfect piece of fruit and more on having fun with creating these dots. You can decide, do you want to have large dots? Then you're going to be using your Q-tip. If you want to have small dots, you're going to be using your fine tip paintbrush. Each of us are going to create our own version of what this painting is going to be like, and they will all be perfect. So let's get our table ready. We're going to put our paper bag on the table so we don't make a mess, and you can get your paper out that has the drawing sketched on there. And for those of you who might be a fast painter or that you like to hurry when you're making your art, you might want to start out with your Q-tips. Or maybe if you're doing this large cornucopia here, you might want to use your Q-tips because it's going to go by a little bit quicker. If you like to take your time and you're not in that big of a hurry, I would go ahead and start with your paintbrush. I'm gonna do a combination of both, and that's a great idea as well. I just would like to say, as you put your Q-tip into your paint, the harder you press on your paper, the larger a dot you're going to get. So let me just start with that and show you. I opened up the brown, so I'm gonna dip it in there, and I'm gonna make the cornucopia brown, but we're also gonna add some more color on there later. So if you can see, one dip of this watercolor paint does truly go a long way. So I've got that much done, and now I'm gonna dip it in again. And I think I'm gonna go along these lines here. So that'll help give it a little bit depth. And I'm going to use the darker color when I first stick it in there. There we go. We can add more on top of that once it's dry. Let me get just a little more. I'm gonna go around the edge. Well, that's nice and dark. If you think some of these are too dark, you can actually sort of pick that paint back up with your Q-tip and then place it somewhere else. So I've gotten this far and I've only dipped my Q-tip in just a couple times. All right, now I'm gonna switch over to my paintbrush just so you can see. And I'm just dotting it on. It doesn't have to be a perfect circle. Your paintbrush might bend over a little bit, so it might look more like a line, but it's still a dot. All right, so go ahead and work on that for a little bit, and then I'll show you something else. I'm sure you're finding out as you go along that some of the spots that we thought we were going to make darker, it turns out it's drying and being a little bit lighter than we thought it would. So we would like to be able to show some of the lines in the cornucopia. So I closed my brown, and I'm going to open up my blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue. I'm going to start out using my paintbrush, and I'm just going to add some blue in here. And you just place your dots right next to each other. If you go on top or not overlap, that's fine. But you want to be able to see the dots. All right, can you get a good look at that? So then I'm gonna try adding some orange. So try to clean off your brush. I'm just kind of cleaning mine off on the brown paper. And then I'm going to add orange in the same area. And I didn't clean my brush off very good, so make sure you clean yours a little bit better. We probably should have talked about having some water and a paper towel with our supplies. But as you can tell, this is giving us a little bit more of a dimensional look. So I'm putting the orange, which is kind of looking green and blue, in between the lines of the cornucopia. All right, so go ahead and work on that for a little bit. All right, remember when I told you to read the lids so you're putting in the right color? You want to know why mine was turning greenish? It's because I wasn't using the orange paint. I ended up using yellow because I didn't listen to my own directions. So please make sure you're reading and choosing the right one. So here's what the orange is gonna look like. There we go. That's the look I was going for. And I would say the cornucopia is gonna be the piece that we spend the most time on. And that's why I like using the Q-tip for that. I'm gonna go back. This seems dry, so I'm gonna go back and just add a little orange over here where I had the wrong color. If you have a lot on and you don't want a lot in that one area, you don't want it to be very dark, you can just take your Q-tip and move to a different spot and then go back and try to spread it out a little bit. All right, so work on that and then start adding some blue in there and we'll see how that looks. How's yours coming along? I'm adding my blue dots in the parts that are white. And yes, sometimes they are overlapping just a little bit. I think that's turning out pretty good. I'm going to move on to doing one of the pieces of fruit. You can always go back and work on that some more. If you think, oh, it might look a little bit too orange and less brown, go ahead and fill in some more of those white spots with your brown. And see how that just changes it so fast. Here's where I have a lot of blue, so I'm gonna try to fill that in with my brown. All right, let's start with the banana. So we are going to use yellow and green. So let's cover the whole thing with yellow and then we'll go back in and we'll add some green. We'll even put some on the tip here and we'll go back and add some brown on the stem. All right, there we go. So now I'm gonna close this up so I don't spill any more than I've already spilled, and I'm gonna open up the green. And we're just gonna put some green around the edges a little bit. So maybe from about here to here. It doesn't have to be in a straight line. And then I think I'll put a little bit of green here on the line here. right in the center. And maybe take it over to the edge. Fill that in a little. Let's outline our banana in green. So go ahead and work on that and we'll check back. That looks pretty good. Let's move on and work on our apple. If you're right-handed, I tend to work from the left to the right and from the top to the bottom. If you're right-handed, did I say that right? Or if you're left-handed, you might want to work this way. Or if you just let your painting dry in between, that works too. So let's start with red for our apple. And you know what? I think I'm gonna outline it with the little dots, and then I think I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna fill it in using the Q-tips. So you can see the different ways to create pointillism. All right, let's see how this looks. I like it. How are you doing yours? Is this how you're doing yours? Do you like it? Maybe I'll go in and add some more small dots again. See how that looks together. And I think I like my small dots being a little bit darker. So I'll add in a little bit more paint on my paintbrush as soon as I notice that it's starting to fade. All right. I think we are ready to work on our leaf. So go ahead and clean off your brush. And we will do that. Green. I would say for the leaves on the apple, you're definitely going to want to use the fine tip paintbrush because they're pretty small. Very nice. All right, let's move on to this pear here. And pears can be yellow and green, maybe have a little brown, similar to a banana, but maybe more green than yellow. So let's start with that. I'm going to fill in the line around. So go ahead and do that and then start filling in your pear. And you can do like the apple and use both the Q-tip and the paintbrush, or whichever way you like. I have all my green on there that I think I want, and I'm gonna add the yellow. So I made sure that my paint was dry. All right, there we go. I think I'll add a few more dots over here just to get the yellow paint off my brush. And now let's move on to the pumpkin. So we're gonna be using orange for that. And you can see that there's some pumpkin over here, and then it goes over here, and there's a little bit of the pumpkin here, not here, just right here, here, and along here. So I think I'll use my Q-tip for this one as well. And we'll fill it in. I like to do all the little hard spots first. So if I get impatient and want to rush along, then I can feel like I can do that. So we'll do all along the other pieces of fruit, along the cornucopia, the leaves. All right, go ahead and fill in your pumpkin. So I went ahead and put some orange on the pumpkin stem, and then I put some brown on top of there. I'm not real thrilled with the way it looks, so I'm going to put dots along the outside of the stem so you can tell what it is. So if you think that yours needs that as well, go ahead and put some dots along there to clean it up a bit. And that definitely makes it look more like a stem. And it's really hard to tell about the depth of the pumpkin. So I would like to go back and take some orange with my fine tip paintbrush and fill in where we can see these lines. All right. So, oops, I'm using the yellow again. Don't do like I'm doing. All right. Let's see how that looks. So if you dip your paintbrush in a little bit extra, just as it starts to fade, you'll have that darker orange, and then you'll be able to see the depth of the pumpkin. Oh, that's looking really good. Okay, next up, we're going to work on the grapes. So we are going to be using red and blue to work on the grapes. We didn't have enough paint pots to stick any purple in there, so we are going to create our own grapes. So let's start with blue. And because these grapes are little, let's see, can we use the Q-tip? Let's give it a try and see. Oh, we can. If you don't press really hard, you can definitely use your Q-tip. Let's try adding in some red now. I'm just gonna try the Q-tip here. That was orange. Nope, that's orange. Let me get a new Q-tip. Red. And I'm just gonna try to place these next to the blue. So I'm sort of losing the shape of the grapes as I'm doing that with this Q-tip. So we might definitely be better off using our paintbrush. And I'm gonna do like I did on the pumpkin, and I'm going to try to see the outline of each grape, and I'm going to outline them. So you go ahead and try to make your grapes, and we'll check back in a minute. All right, so I'm struggling with the grapes. I'm not sure if you are. I'm gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna go back in and try to put very light brown inside the cornucopia here. And then I'm gonna come back with a new layer of paint and try to fix up those grapes a little bit. If you have not started on your grapes yet and you want to just have blue grapes, you can go ahead and do that. Then make sure you outline it with your fine tip paintbrush, and that might look a little bit different than what mine looks like. So I'm just going to try to press very, very lightly just to fill it in so it looks like it's dark inside. press very lightly. As you can see, I have not dipped my Q-tip in yet again because this just goes so far. All right, go ahead and work on that. Mine's looking pretty good. How is yours looking? So now I'm gonna go back in with the blue and try again to make the shape of these grapes. And that's the thing about art. Sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly the way you thought it was gonna turn out. And that's what's happening with these grapes with me today. So I'm using the blue and my fine tip brush, and I'm trying to find where I think these individual grapes are. And I am kind of just going over the colors that are already there. The paint is a little bit thicker. I'm dipping my paintbrush in a little bit more so it's darker. Can you see that? It looks like now I am getting somewhat of a shape of the grapes. So hopefully once that dries, it's gonna look great. All right, everybody, here's what mine looks like. It's all done. It turned out pretty well. My grapes even, you can see, they look like grapes. So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you had fun making this project. If you want to share that with me, you can email it to youth@newlenoxlibrary.org, or you're welcome to post it on our Facebook post regarding Art Club. And go ahead and visit the Chicago Art Institute. Go check out Georges Seurat's paintings, or at least go online and see what they look like. Have a great day.